Today is a big day for Gina Carano. We've got breaking news that she is in fact suing Disney for wrongful termination. And she's got Elon Musk and Twitter basically behind her, helping her sue the company for wrongful termination. And with me, as always, is my good friend Aaron Sparrow. How you doing there?
I'm doing really well. I'm really excited about this news. Go, Gina.
First up, talking about suing Disney, today is an important day for me. I am filing a lawsuit against Lucasfilm and Disney after my 20 years of building a career from scratch and during the regime of former Disney CEO Bob Chapek. Lucasfilm made this statement on Twitter terminating me from The Mandalorian. Gina Carano is not currently employed by Lucasfilm, and there are no plans for her to be in the future. Nevertheless, her social media posts denigrating people based on their culture and religious identities are abhorrent and unacceptable. I think everybody was kind of wondering if this was going to happen, if she was going to go out there and end up defending herself, because really it didn't seem like there was a whole lot of base to what they decided to do when they terminated her. But I'm very happy that she's defending herself, and it did feel like, Disney definitely overstepped the line at the time and just firing somebody just because people didn't like her on social media.
And it was just because some weirdos didn't like her on social media. If you go to any of the Dallas or any of the fan expos that that Gina's a part of, whether they're Dallas Fan Expo or any of those any of the cons that bring her out, her line is like a mile long. People loved the character of Cara Dune, and people really love the fact that Gina is for an industry that keeps talking about how they want strong women and strong female characters. Here you have a strong woman who stood up for herself against the mob, against the forces of the culture that have control. She stood up like a real rebel against that, and they immediately had to try to shout her down and destroy her reputation and destroy her career. And I am glad to see that she filed a lawsuit and that she is going after him for it.
Now she goes on to defend herself and explain what happened here. Nothing could be further from the truth. The truth is I was being hunted down for everything I posted, to every post I liked, because I was not in line with the acceptable narrative of the time. My words were consistently twisted to demonize and dehuman me as an alt-right-wing extremist. It was a bullying and smear campaign aimed at silencing, destroying, and making an example out of me. The thing is, I never used aggressive language. I shared thought-provoking quotes, pictures, memes, and occasionally I used my own words, not with aggression, but with respect, and occasionally comedy to keep the mood light in dark times. Look with your own eyes at what I posted and ask yourself, for example, where did I compare Republicans to the Jewish people in the Holocaust? I didn't. Ask yourself why they were calling me a racist. Was there any merit behind that or history of it whatsoever? No. Look at why I was called a transphobe for making droid noises from Star Wars. Beep, bop, boop was obviously directed to the online bullies and did not in any way denigrate transgender people. And I think we are seeing kind of the times of cancel culture dying down here. Well, those are basically all the tactics that they used online to bully people, silence them, and ultimately get them fired. And it worked 100% on Gina Carano.
Yeah, because unfortunately, a lot of the mentally ill people that were on social media are the same mentally ill people that have infiltrated Lucasfilm and Disney. So you have activists in there. You have people who, have an agenda, and they have a deviant agenda, and what they're going to push back on anything that could even possibly interfere with what they want to do with these properties. They want to boil these down, make these niche properties, make these properties about what they believe and what their truth is, as opposed to just telling good stories. And when you had somebody like Gina Carano, who wasn't fully on board and fully kowtowing to that agenda, she had to be destroyed. She had to be made an example of. Well, now the tide has turned. Now normal people have been made aware of all of these things that are going on in popular culture. They started to notice. And once normies noticed and they started to reject it, things have really started to turn.
I remember that particular tweet, I guess the one that really got her fired, with the supposedly comparing Republicans to Holocaust victims, and nothing could be further from the truth of what she was actually getting at there.
She was talking about, she was making a case that the way that the Holocaust was allowed to happen was the fact that people were othered. And when they were othered, it allows people to suddenly start to view them as subhuman. And once you view them as subhuman, it makes it, anything that you want to do to them justifiable in your own mind and in the minds of the people that want to do them harm. So she was using a historical example to talk about the mood of the country and the way that things were shifting. And there was nothing wrong with that. She wasn't specifically saying that Republicans were being persecuted in the same way. She was saying that the way that they were being othered by the mainstream was how you get something eventually like the Holocaust. And they fired her for that. Now, granted, they wanted to fire her already. Kathleen Kennedy already wanted to fire her. She was already in trouble for, the whole beep bop boop thing, the fact that she could not be bullied into putting her pronouns in her bio, which was ridiculous because, obviously you look at Gina Carano and you know exactly what her pronouns are, as you do pretty much everybody on the planet. When you look at them, you know what their real pronouns are, as opposed to whichever ones they want you to use. But because she had taken a stand there and she was like, yeah, I'm not going to be bullied into doing something that I disagree with, she already had a target on her back. So when she released that statement, that was the thing that they could spin up into a reason to fire her, even though it had no basis in fact. And even though the star of The Mandalorian, Pedro Pascal, actively compared Republican voters to Nazis in one of his tweets and suffered no persecution, no ill will for that, because that was an accepted viewpoint.
Speaking of that, she does talk about hypocrisy in Hollywood in her statement. Were my questions about masks, lockdowns, and forced vaccines okay to ask, and push the subject into the light? Should we have been allowed to publicly discuss those topics at the time without being harassed or censored? Absolutely. Hollywood says they support female representation and equal rights. Why then were my male co-stars permitted to speak without harassment and re-education courses or termination, but I was not offered the same right to exercise my freedom of speech? Artists did not sign away our rights as American citizens. I have spoken to all my co-stars since I was fired, and there is nothing but care and kind words between us. I respect their right to free speech and do not have to think the same way on every single issue to be their friends and work with them, and I know they feel the same way towards me.
No, that's exactly right. And it references what I was just saying, is that, obviously Pedro Pascal was allowed to come out and say the things that he said because he had the pre-approved politics of the regime that's in charge at Lucasfilm. Anti-Republican, anti-Trump, all of the things that we saw just absolutely break Hollywood and break the minds of people in the entertainment industry over the last 7 years. It's just been, unbelievable the way that they've gone after half of the country. And whether you think that the other half of the country is right or not, when you're running a business, that is half of your customer base. So, maybe you don't get involved in politics when you're just trying to sell people hot dogs. You're a vendor. You're selling them hot dogs. You're selling them widgets. Whatever it is that you're selling them doesn't need to be political, because inherently, you want their money, and their money is green too.
Being offered re-education courses or termination, those are things that you expect out of like communist countries, socialist regimes. You don't actually expect that from an actual business entity or an entertainment franchise within the American ecosphere. But that's kind of where we've gotten to.
Yeah, well, all of these companies have been infiltrated, and there's an insidious agenda on the part of BlackRock and these companies that invest in them to have all these ESG initiatives, to have all these DEI initiatives, and they understand that culture runs downstream of pop culture. So, if you can capture the entertainment, if you can capture pop culture and you can twist it into what you want, eventually you can make the rest of the culture that way as well. And so, with cancel culture, with, these re-education camps that they wanted to send her to, basically they were going to put her in a struggle session with all of these LGBT activists that they had working at the company. So her alone on a Zoom call with like 40 different people berating her until she acquiesced. And she said no to that. She actually offered an alternative. She said, I'll go to dinner and we can have like a one-on-one, which I think is a much better option, because it's really hard. It's a lot harder to deny somebody's humanity when they're sitting right in front of you. But that's what this is all about. It's about denying people's humanity so that you can either break them or ostracize them. It's all very Orwellian. And I'm glad that now in 2024, it looks like we are seeing, the back of cancel culture has been broken. The perceived power of these people has been broken. I think there have been several landmarks that have happened that have illustrated that the emperor had no clothes. They have no power. Number one was when Elon Musk took over Twitter and they were no longer able to silence opposition. That really brought things to the fore. Once free speech was allowed to flourish, all of these ideas were rejected and were pushed down. And secondly, you saw the lobby that came out against Hogwarts Legacy trying to get that banned because of, J.K. Rowling's transphobic views, as they say. And that was an absolute failure. They had no financial power. The game was the most successful game of the year. People loved it. So obviously, the majority of the public is not on your side, is not part of your ideology. And once you lost control of Twitter and you lost the ability to control the conversation, and your ideas had to exist within the free market of ideas where people could actually once again question them and analyze them and debate them, you had no legs to stand on.
Next up, she talks about who's supporting her in this. A couple months ago, Elon Musk tweeted that if you had been fired for using the platform X for exercising your right to free speech, he would like to offer these people legal representation. Quite the noble offer, but never in my wildest dreams would I have thought anyone would take on my case against Lucasfilm Disney. Still, I did respond back. I think I qualify, and thousands of people agreed, but I did not expect anything. To my surprise, a few months ago, I received an email from a lawyer who had been hired by X to look into my story and many others. Turns out, after sending them as much information as I could gather these past few months, my now lawyers and X believe wholeheartedly in my case and are moving forward. I would like to express my deepest gratitude and thank you to Elon Musk and X for giving me an opportunity to bring my case to light. Pretty crazy what Elon Musk has done just with the way free speech is working in America right now, that he was actually able to open the floodgates. And now he says, if you go onto my free speech platform that's out there and you get fired because of it, I'm actually going to back you up as well.
Yeah, it's pretty great. And the thing that makes me excited about this is that typically when you go up against a big corporation or somebody who has more money than you, we've seen it in this small of thing as comics with Mark Wade telling that shop owner that I could just outlast you financially, so go ahead and sue me, but it's just going to bankrupt you and I'll be fine. That's the way that these corporations work as well. Is that their intent is that we'll just hem you up so long that you'll run out of money, and then there won't be any recourse for you. Well, with Elon Musk backing her up, this thing could go all the way. Typically, a corporation, when they're faced with bad PR like this, when they're faced with the possibility of discovery showing a whole lot of dirty laundry that their people have been involved in, they will settle. And I'm hoping that Gina is not interested in settling. I'm hoping that Gina is interested in taking this all the way to trial, and that we get discovery on these emails. We find out the things that Kathleen Kennedy was saying and was involved in. We find out all these employees that were involved, people on Twitter who were doing this. I would love to see all this exposed. I would love to see all of the light shine in on all of this darkness, and us really find out what was going on and see exactly how deep and insidious this rabbit hole goes.
The final thing that she had to say in her statement was a thank you, basically. As for me, I would love to pick up where I left off and continue my journey of creating and participating in storytelling, which is my utmost passion and everything I work so hard for. It has been difficult to move forward with the lies and labels stuck on me, backed and encouraged by the most powerful entertainment company in the world. I am grateful someone has come to my defense in such a powerful way and look forward to clearing my name. Thank you to all the people who have supported me and made your voices heard. I pray God blesses each and every one of you. We ended up losing what should have been a pretty damn cool Star Wars show. Because of it, we lost a really cool character, and basically Disney and Lucasfilm exposed themselves and really all of Hollywood as hypocrites as they went on this nasty witch hunt. And unfortunately for Gina Carano, who I've been following before she was even an actress, I remember watching her at Elite XC when she was a young MMA fighter and all that stuff. She ended up having her reputation and opportunity to make money in the future severely tarnished because of these actions. So I hope she gets a good recourse on this.
I hope so too, and I would like to see this go even deeper. I would like to see the discriminatory nature of these business practices rooted out. I would like to see them suffer all of the financial problems that come along with doing this sort of thing, and I would love to see all of this stuff brought to light.
Well, I do want to say thank you very much, Aaron Sparrow. I know this is right at the end. We just done our podcast, The Geek Fix, which is exclusive over on Patreon. If you guys are more interested in what Aaron and I have been talking about today, there's a link in the video description, and that podcast will be live in about 15 hours or so on the Patreon itself. And definitely thank you very much, Aaron. Really appreciate it.
Yeah. I wish that, it's funny because this news broke while we were wrapping up. And so we didn't have a lot of time to absorb it. So apologies if we seem a little bit all over the place, but we are just reacting to it as it breaks. So thanks everybody for listening.